Bunch of news in regards to Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, and the UFC coming out of this past weekend. On McGregor's end, he sat down with ESPN's Kenny Mayne for the Sunday conversation. Actually, probably the best person he could have sat down with in terms of in an interview sense. Kenny Mayne kind of has that rugged, rough, almost McGregor-esque way of being a SportsCenter host. It just seemed like a good fitting, so it made for a great conversation. And two, Nate Diaz and Dana White did not necessarily have a great meeting, at least according to reports from MMA Junkie and a few other outlets in regards to the pricing that Nate Diaz wants to receive to have a rematch with Conor McGregor. All right, so first let's go to the McGregor interview. I took about a minute of it. It's 4.5 minutes long, so I'm going to leave you the full interview in the description box below, and I encourage you to watch it. But the minute and 20 seconds I took from it, I think kind of highlights what people wanted to hear the air cleared on in terms of Conor.
All this impasse was taking place. You know, you were writing what you wrote on Facebook, and they had their comments, and there was this insistence that as one of ours, you're required to go do this and go do that, and I think you took exception to that your existence is promotion.
You know, it was a publicized civil war. I was going through some things. There was some crazy stuff going on back home. I wanted to be focused on my training.
It sounds like that was maybe the sticking point. They wanted to use you the way they wanted to use you, and you said, no, I need to do this for myself and get back to the training I need.
I was in a time where I was like figuring out something. I didn't just shut out and say no to everything. I just wanted to do reasonable media, so. And then, hey, all of a sudden, Conor, it's 3 months from the fight. We've got to drag you 40-hour flights to come and do a run around New York, Vegas, California, 70 press conferences, 70 talk shows, adverts, all of this. I was like, I only made you 400 million last week. That was only last week, that fight. I know you want me to go, you know, I need to get right. That's how it all came about, you know. I just wanted to focus, and I was deep in the process. And especially at that particular moment, I just wanted a little bit more time. I didn't shut it off completely. Reasonable media.
So McGregor makes some very good points in his interview. Later in the interview, he does get pressed by Kenny Mayne, and he does mention that when he was doing the whole Twitter retirement thing, he kind of saw that it blew up, as he puts it, just took off. So maybe he maybe he really didn't know how much power his tweet had over the UFC, or at least over media in general. Yeah. But Francis, obviously we've been back and forth about Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. In terms of the media obligations, in terms of Conor McGregor's stance on all this, has anything, I don't want to say changed about it, but now that we've finally heard McGregor speak about it, what's your thoughts from it?
No, it hasn't changed. My thoughts on Conor McGregor is when we talked about this at the very start, before we really get into all the debates and my fandom emerged, as everyone knows from McGregor, I always stood by the fact that if you're going to sign up to do this, you need to make sure that you do it to what you're expected to do. You're a professional footballer, you've got a job every day, you're expected to turn up and play football. Same with basketball. The basketball players have to go to a press conference after the game. Even if they lose, you see Cam Newton after the Super Bowl have to sit through a press conference. Yeah. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially when you've just lost the Super Bowl. But if you are pursuing that career and you're pursuing your dream, those things just go part and parcel with it. And I never made an excuse for Conor McGregor for that. But it's interesting to see this. Like, you think it's all glam and glitz and everything is fantastic, and if he wins, everything's great. But that loss, obviously things were going to change. If Conor McGregor won, this wouldn't have happened. Because he would have been like, he had to get another fight, he has to prepare probably for Dos Anjos.
Probably quicker, yeah.
Probably quicker, and he's probably like, he has to go through that turmoil again. But again, he's winning, so he's probably like, all right, send me on my private jet, I'm going to go in. But now he got a harsh knock to reality. He realized that he wasn't prepared enough, and he just wanted to make adjustments to his fighting style. And we understand that. That is understandable. If he was to come out and do that rather than do the tweet first and come out and maybe hold an interview and be like, you know what, I just don't think it's acceptable for us fighters, not just me, but fighters as a whole, to do all this promotion when, especially, I just made this amount of money for you guys, just give me a little bit of a break. That would be a little bit more understandable. But you said, like, he tried to grab the sport by the balls using his activeness and his power on social media. And that wasn't the best way to go about it. And as you said, watch the full interview. Towards the end, he questions his own choices. He says, you know what, I wish I just jumped on the plane. I wish I just jumped and went to Vegas.
He just mentioned, he's like, maybe I should have done that, but I needed to do what I needed to do to get right. So he puts it in a way, and look, Dana White's exaggerated parts of this, and so has Conor McGregor. They've both kind of blown this entire thing out of proportion.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I found really interesting is that when McGregor puts it is, he's exaggerating when he says 70 press tours, 70 talk shows.
Yeah.
There's not actually 70. But New York, Vegas, this, that. From what we knew in general and what we still pretty much know in terms from the UFC side is that it was just supposed to be a UFC 200 press conference and the commercial.
Yeah.
Was there, my questions now kind of go back to, and I'm curious if anybody knows, was there more than the UFC 200 press conference that this tour had to happen, or was it really just a flight to Vegas and a flight back?
Yeah.
And of course, for McGregor, it is a 40-hour flight. That's a little bit unfair compared to the guys like Nate Diaz who live in frickin' Stockton, or from Stockton, California.
But again, it's McGregor's choice to go and train in Iceland as well.
Of course. That's true. He could train here. That's a good point.
And if he wants to prepare for his fight doing that way, then no one can really question it because that's his. That's the way he wants to prepare for the fight. But again, the other side of it is Conor McGregor. He has jumped through hoops for the UFC. That's what we stated before. Look at the mass press that was around the Aldo fight. The advert that we all love, the one that was in Vegas.
For the Frank Ocean song.
For the Frank
and
Ocean
Kanye
song. It was amazing. And then what happened is the fight went down the toilet and then he had to do another round of promotion.
Which wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault. So I'm saying that maybe he thinks that he's owed just a little bit of leeway by the UFC for how much he's saved them when fighters are pulled out. And by the way, this is the only thing I stand by when people will comment and be like, he didn't save them, they saved him by bringing in another fight. No, it's him that's the card that people want to see. So as long as he says, you know what, I'll fight the next fighter. I don't need to fight Jose Aldo. I'll go and fight Chad Mendes. Just bring him in. Make sure he's prepared. Yeah. That is a testament to his character. This wasn't. This wasn't a testament to the person I have grown to like. This was a shady way to try and get his way, I think.
I think the biggest surprise I got from all of this in the past 2-3 weeks is of course, and I still stand by Dana White in this situation, which people are going to rip me for too. You stand by, you don't believe in the fighters. No, I just believe in the business sense of how these things run.
They take a paycheck. So
especially by the way, from what you see on the boxing side of things with Canelo having to abandon his WBC championship belt without even fighting somebody.
Yeah.
That's utter BS from the business side of things.
Yeah.
And speaking of the boxing sense from this, by the way, they towards the end, McGregor, in McGregor fashion, says, Floyd Mayweather needs me. I don't need him. I'll box him. I'm not taking a pay cut. He's right about that. It's not like he gets to fight Floyd Mayweather, and it's fair that Mayweather would get $100 million and McGregor would get $7 million. In addition to that, I want to cite Max Kellerman on this one, and I still stand by this. The lack of respect for disciplines. McGregor's an MMA fighter. We get that. Mayweather's a boxer. Anybody who knows boxing and MMA knows this fight lasts a round for Mayweather if it's in the boxing ring, and a round for McGregor if it's in the octagon. Yeah. But he mentions, and this is so McGregor has this respectable charisma and intelligence. This is the most credit I'll give this guy at this point. Because he says when Mayweather was 27 years old, which is the age of McGregor right now, he was an undercard on Oscar De La Hoya. Yeah. Granted, again, different sports, different structures. They don't. So I thought that was such a great line. The guy is fantastic with the media. But the biggest surprise I had from all this is not that he waited, but they had this Sunday conversation with ESPN. Of all the people to go silent for so long, or what feels like so long, I never thought that would be Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
I thought he'd still be throwing up things on Twitter and Instagram, at least kind of stirring up this thing. And maybe he realized that one tweet, that retirement tweet, got way out of hand way too quickly. Yeah. And again, I stand by Dana White. I stand by the reasoning for pulling him off the UFC 200 card. And I think that some people mentioned in the comments too that, is this possibly just a tactic for him to stall so he gets more time to train? He said his cardio gave out in the second round. That's why he got submitted by Nate Diaz. Logically speaking, that makes sense.
Yeah, and one person as we move forward who hasn't stood by Dana White, or what we can allude to based on the reports from their meeting, is Nate Diaz didn't have the best meeting with Dana White. They didn't see eye to eye, according to what people have speculated, is that he wasn't happy with his money. He wasn't happy with the way the fight was going to break down if there was to be a rematch between him and Conor McGregor. And before I get all the statistics on this, by the way, this is what I want to talk about. We don't know what happened in here, but I can just make a accurate assumption based on all the stats we know about Dana White. Dana White's probably went in and went, right, Nate, McGregor wants to fight. You know that hoop that I just had you jump through again? Come on, jump back through it. But here, by the way, you're not going to get paid as much. is what you would want to, because we've got to still pay Conor McGregor, we've got to pay the all added promotion. And no, Nate just went, fuck you, motherfucker, fuck you. I'm not doing that. And he has every right to do that. Why? Because Nate Diaz has been dragged along this string. Come on, Nate, come here. We're going to have you. Oh, McGregor's pulling out, so just stand by. And then Nate Diaz.
Yeah. And he won't
it's
take.
not fair.
I don't think
It's
he'll
not
take.
fair.
I don't think Diaz wants to fight with anybody else.
No, he doesn't. For Nate Diaz, I think that he has got his career to a level now where he is as respected as he should have been, because he is a veteran fighter in the UFC, and he is respected now. But he wants to show people, I think, that this wasn't a fluke. And I don't think it was a fluke. I think he just he worked parts of the body that were able to neutralize Conor McGregor. He can withstand a ridiculous amount of punishment. He's just a strong warrior in the octagon.
They should sign him to some movie deals. They should sign him. All right, so real quickly, here's the quotes from Dana White and his meeting with Nate Diaz. So TMZ today reported that today being May 20th, in California between UFC President Dana White and Diaz, quote, ended abruptly when Dana was visibly angry, stood up in beeline for his SUV. He declined to go over specifics of his day with Diaz, but he did admit to MMA Junkie that, quote, I didn't have a good day in Stockton. So obviously it seems like it's a money issue. It's that they don't have the fight going on. Again, I still think this fight gets worked out. I think we'll see Diaz-McGregor. Maybe now not at UFC 202. Maybe it's 203 or 204. But I think they'll fight again. The money will be there.
Christmas in Ireland.
Christmas in Ireland will be a fun one.
Christmas in Stockton.
Christmas in Stockton would also be a fun one. Comment below with what you think about all these social media, and everything else is in the description box, as well as the full ESPN Sunday Conversation with Kenny Mayne. Check that out. It's definitely worth a watch.